Hello friends, and welcome back to video number 2. To kick off the videos on my channel, I figured I would talk about something that has been on my mind a lot the past few days. In this period of extreme pain, but also extreme growth, I've started to think a lot about my own strengths, my own weaknesses, and more importantly, what I can work on. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I thought about titling this video My Weaknesses, but I thought about it a little bit more and I realized that kind of has a negative connotation, and while these things are my weaknesses, so to say, they're also things that I'm actively trying to build upon to make myself a better person. I have 6 things for you today. I don't know why I felt the need to just show my fingers. The first thing on my list is learning how to be by myself. If you guys watched my last video, you know that I talked a little bit about how, as somebody who's really extroverted, it's a very scary thing for me to be by myself for a long period of time. It's something that, especially now, going through a breakup, I'm trying to learn how to, I guess, process my thoughts in my own head without having to share them with somebody else constantly, and also learning how to just sit by myself, take myself places, do things by myself and be okay with it. Not only be okay with it, but actually have a really good time doing it. I recently watched this video that my friend Tina sent to me, and I will link that down below if you haven't seen it. It's called How to Be Alone, and I watched it on day 3 after my breakup or something, and I just bawled my eyes out. I don't know why, it hit me really hard. It also made me realize that it was something that I really needed and wanted to explore for myself. I say want, I don't actually want to because it scares the shit out of me, but it's something that I want to be able to do, put it that way. Also, I want to make a distinction between being afraid of the public seeing you alone versus actually being alone, because what I'm afraid of is actually being alone. So for example, I know that there's people who are afraid of going to restaurants by themselves or sitting in a cafeteria by themselves and eating a meal alone because they're afraid that people are going to look at them and think oh, why is this person such a loser, doesn't have any friends at this brunch or whatever. I don't know. Does anyone go to brunch by themselves? Anyway, that's not so much what I'm concerned about, because I don't really give a shit what people think of me in public because I'm probably never going to see them again, realistically, but I'm afraid of the actual physically being alone. So me sitting in my room by myself for 7 hours at a time with nobody to talk to is really freaking terrifying to me. I don't know why. I think because I'm so used to being so outgoing and being in school so much where you're constantly surrounded by people, it's been so easy for me to just go out and socialize with people and then instantly feel better. To make a distinction, for those of you who don't know, extroversion is not being outgoing, it's getting your energy and your happiness from being with other people. Introverts need time on their own to recharge, whereas for extroverts it's the opposite. I need to recharge by being with people. It's kind of a backwards mentality, but yeah, that's just kind of how I am, and it's always been like that. I've always loved being around people, and it gets exhausting sometimes and difficult when you don't have people to hang out with, but because of that, it's made me realize that I have to learn how to be okay by myself. So that's the first thing I'm working on. The second thing I'm working on is learning how to show myself a little bit more compassion. It's been really difficult in the past few days to kind of cycle through and sort through all of my thoughts. I've had a lot of different thoughts, a lot of really good ones, a lot of really bad ones, but sometimes when I'm upset, it's not even that I'm upset at the thing that I'm upset about. Sometimes I get so worked up that I'm I'm a strong person, why am I upset about this? Does that make any sense? So it's I get upset at myself for being upset. And something that I've learned and am still learning is that strength doesn't mean you can't feel things because I consider myself a pretty headstrong person. I think I'm able to pull myself out of a lot of really shitty situations, but I am also an extremely emotional person. I'm an empath. I feel everything tenfold, and so when pain hits me, it's it's I'm being struck by lightning. Essentially, I'm just learning to be nicer to myself and more understanding, because I think the path to healing obviously is generally an upwards trajectory, but there are going to be little mini pitfalls in that path to healing, and I'm learning to be okay with those little pitfalls and just recognize that that's just part of the process of life. What goes down must always come up. The third thing I'm working on is learning how to be more organized. This is a super difficult one for me. I can talk more about this in a later video, but long story short, ever since I was a little kid, I have showed signs of ADHD, and I've never been professionally diagnosed with it because my parents don't really believe in mental illness, and I tried to talk to my mom about it when I was a kid, when I was in high school, and it just like did not go well. She was not happy about that at all. But basically, I have done a lot of research on my own about ADHD, and I have noticed a lot of those symptoms in myself, like all of them. It's so on point to everything that I've experienced in my life. And when I say I can't focus, I mean like I literally can't focus. I can't finish my sentences sometimes if I don't plan things out. I never finish stories when I'm like talking to people and trying to tell them something that happened to me. I always go in a million tangents until they like kind of pull me back in and say like, what were you talking about originally? And I'm like, oh yeah. So as a result of that, it's also really hard for me to be organized, even though being organized is something that I really, really like to do. And I like being clean. I like planning my days out. It's just really hard for me to execute everything that I've planned. So something that I'm doing to kind of remedy that a little bit is I've been looking into a minimalist lifestyle recently, and minimalism really appeals to me. I really love the idea of just having less physical clutter in general, because I think physical clutter can lead to a lot of mental clutter, which like if you're a creative person, that's great, which I am, but it's also starting to like cloud a little bit of my mind. That's something that I want to try out for a bit, and I'm gonna start getting rid of some stuff once I move and try to like really just like downsize my physical belongings and see if that helps anything. The fourth thing that I want to improve on is translating my thoughts into actions. Something that I've recently been looking into is, well, not recently, but recently for myself, is exploring kind of a vegan lifestyle, vegan plant-based lifestyle, because my former partner was vegan and she actually taught me a lot about environmentalism, the health benefits, and all this stuff. I really like took a lot of her words to heart, and they've really stuck with me. And especially now that we're no longer together, it's like interesting how now is the time when I'm finally starting to like process everything, and I'm like, wow, this is actually something I'm like interested in exploring for myself. So that's kind of cool, I guess. So basically what I'm working on is translating my thoughts and feelings into actually becoming part of my life, things that I do on the daily. When it comes to eating a plant-based diet, that means like, you know, not getting cheese on my Chipotle or whatever, or swapping out meat for non-meat options when it's available and things like that. Just little changes that I'll like gradually actually adopt what I'm thinking and feeling into my actual life, instead of just me sitting here and talking about it constantly but not actually doing anything, because that does make me feel like a little bit of a hypocrite, you know? I think it's time to just take charge and do the things that I feel in my heart and just follow what I think is right. Another example of me implementing this is this YouTube channel, and this is a very quick turnaround in terms of me wanting to do something and then actually doing it. In my agony in the past few days, I just got this idea like, wow, like I want to start vlogging again, and here I am, I'm vlogging again, and guess what, it feels super good. I'm really excited to be back. The fifth thing that I want to improve on is holding myself accountable. That means in my personal relationships, you know, recognizing when I do make a mistake and apologizing and being the bigger person and just taking charge of a situation like that. Forgiving other people when they don't mean anything wrong, and I recognize that like my negative reaction to something is just me reacting negatively out of habit. Also a big one for me is I like to talk about politics and controversial things, and in the past a few times I've slipped up and like blasted my opinions online when I didn't really do that much research on the topic, and it was embarrassing because I was basically talking out of a fart. Like I had no basis for what I was saying except for my own emotions, and that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on me at all, and it didn't make me feel good because people called me out on it, because I have great friends, to be honest. If your friends don't call you out on your bullshit, you should find new friends, because the best kind of people are the ones who will tell you when you're being a stupid biatch. So basically, when it comes to talking about things that I want to formulate a concrete opinion on, it means doing my research, actually knowing what the hell I'm talking about before I concretely put an opinion out there. And that's not to say that you shouldn't talk about anything that you're not extremely well educated on, because I think, you know, like lighthearted opinions or like surface level opinions are also important to kind of like get your mind going, but be careful what you say. Number 6, the final thing for now that I really want to work on is living with more love and understanding and compassion as opposed to snap judgments. How does this translate? For me, that means not shit-talking people. I think there's a difference between shit-talking somebody and expressing your frustrations about somebody. I think it's okay to like rant about things if you're frustrated by a situation and someone who's treating you badly. But I do think there's a very big difference between that and just like talking smack on someone's character, because that doesn't feel good. I used to, I think, gossip about people a lot and shit talk about people a lot, and I always had this little nagging thing in the back of my head telling me like, Alice, like, why did you do that? Every time afterwards, I would think to myself like, why did you say those things? How does that help you? How does it help them? How does it help the person you're saying these things to? It doesn't. Those are my 6 big things that I have for now. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment below if you want to see more of this, because I'm always gonna find more things in my life that I want to work on. I've had this life motto in my head ever since my freshman year of high school, which is when I first discovered my self-confidence, which is pretty early, I recognize, and I'm gonna make a video about that separately because that's its own story. This motto basically says, I'm gonna live however I want, as long as I respect myself and I respect other people. To me, I think respect is like the most basic thing that you can live by. It should be expected, regardless of what situation you're in, regardless of where you go, who you meet, whatever. Just respect people, because the truth is you never know where someone's coming from. And one last thought before I go, I think that the times that are the most telling of somebody's character are when they're reacting to things, not when they're acting. Because when we're put in times of extreme pain and extreme stress and trials and tribulations and all this stuff, I think that's when like your true character shows. And I've learned that a lot about myself and about other people, but mostly about myself, because I have these moments where I think that I'm, you know, oh, like I have no insecurities, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Going through a breakup has taught me like, wow, I have a lot of insecurities, because as soon as you're put in a situation where you feel like somebody is judging you for who you are as a person, it's like all of your little inner demons just come out and start eating away at your self-esteem. It's super toxic if you don't learn to recognize it and nip it in the bud. The reason I mention that is because the 6 things that I just talked about are things that I think would apply really well in situations of reactivity versus me just being a great radiant person because I'm having an awesome day, you know, because it's so easy to be nice to people when you're having a good time. It's really difficult to be nice when you're frustrated with somebody or when you are just not having a good day. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video to kind of hold myself accountable for the things that I've now listed for the public. Also to hopefully inspire you to maybe do more self-aware soul searching a little bit. I think we all have a little bit of work to do on ourselves. That sounds like plastic surgery, that's not what I'm talking about. But you know what I mean. Inner work, improving the self. I think that strength and resilience and mental health are things that are so easily overlooked in daily life when we have things that seem so much more pressing. But really I think self-improvement is so important, and being self-aware and knowing when you should be looking into yourself a little bit more and seeing like, what can I do better as opposed to what can the world do better for me. Honestly, life just gets a little bit easier when you learn how to handle yourself a little bit more, and it's something that I'm actively trying to work on. I hope this video inspired you a little bit. Let me know down in the comments below what you would like to work on in your personal life, because I'd love to hear. Everybody has different weaknesses and it's awesome to kind of come together as a community and hold each other accountable. But thank you if you're watching this, I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!